Hey everyone, it's the start of 321 Crucible, and I wanted to make a update series for the first week of the season, going over how my season start has been going. I didn't have anything for day one, so today's going to be day one and day two together, mostly because we were very busy day one. I pretty much played 14 hours straight, slept for 6 hours, immediately woke up, ate food, and then just started gaming on day two. We had no free time, so I wasn't able to do anything on day one. So why don't we talk about how everything's been going so far? We have been doing group play this season. I've been playing with my friends Brian, Maria, and Randall. We are playing a four-man party where we currently have two traders, one carry, and one Orabot, and things have been going pretty well. Leveling was a little bit rough. We did do a few practice runs beforehand, but I feel like we should have done a full run to Act 10. We did have a few issues here and there in terms of not knowing exactly how to do some swaps and having a little bit of issues, but it was still a pretty good time. We leveled in 5 hours, which I would say is not bad considering I have not done a group play in about 3 years. And our Orabot has never actually played an Orabot. So I would say for us effectively having a new learning experience together, it went really well. 5 hours is pretty good. I would have liked to maybe have done 4 to 4.5, but 5 is more than good enough. As soon as we got to maps, we started immediately rushing. And what we were doing as our progression at the start was to just push tier 16 while feeding everything we could into our traders and have our traders go over all the loots and try and make money with it. We entered maps, I think, with maybe 2 or 3 chaos. And what we did to level was we had a command on my stream that said buying weapons. And we were looking specifically for +1 lightning weapons, as those are really good early on. But we were looking for very specific, really, really strong weapons. And luckily, our community was able to hook us up. We didn't have the money for them immediately, but what we did is we gave them an IOU. So at the start of day two, we paid the people who sold us wands for free in the first few hours of the season, 20 and 30C for the wands. So they didn't immediately benefit from the wands, but they did get quite a hefty chunk of money moving forward into the second day. Those helped us level fast. I pretty much kept those wands until level 80 or something, until we found some half decent random scepters that I then swapped into. I would say they were very much a worthy investment. Those things made leveling really easy. But our strategy for mapping was simply just pushing forward and giving our money to our traders, and they were doing all of the work. For our traders, at first, what they did was we had one of them go to Heist, and he did a few hours of Heist. Even though Heist was nerfed, we still had quite a few contracts. So we were able to make a decent amount of money out of it. I remember looking at our stash and I saw 20 chaos in there. I'm like, where did we get 20 chaos from? And it was our trader doing Heist for them. Our other trader was effectively just sitting there flipping the whole time. She first started doing vanity cards, the corrupted tabula, where we would try and snipe them, turn the tabula in, and hopefully get +1 of any gems, which we can sell for a massive profit. I think we only did that twice, but we still end up profiting about 20 to 30 chaos right as we got into maps, which is really nice since that allowed us to basically do whatever we wanted with money. We effectively were infinitely rich, at least at that point in the season. Progression was pretty easy. We didn't have any problems at all. I think until yellow maps or so, I was one-shotting pretty much everything. Having an aura bot was disgusting, and it made everything super, super easy. And then once we got to red maps, we upgraded our aura bot a little bit. We got him a correlating elixir. He went low life. We fit in all the purities and we had no problems. Day one was pretty boring. It was very exciting. We had a lot of fun, but it was pretty boring because it was just progression with a few upgrades here and there. I think we ended day one with 2 div to our name, but I'm pretty sure we also spent about 3 to 5 div on our gear. So in total, I think making about 7-ish div while just progressing really fast was not bad. We didn't go super degen. Like we didn't stay up until super late at night. I think we played from 4 p.m. when the season started until 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. So we ended up playing about 10 to 12 hours or so. And I think 10 to 12 hours from the start of the season to tier 16 maps was a pretty good progression curve. I would say we got there pretty quickly and we were pretty efficient about our time. Obviously, it could have been a bit faster, but we're not speedrunners and we weren't trying super hard. We were just kind of having fun, hanging out in Discord and just having a good time with it. Moving on to day two. So day two was a little bit rough, I would say. We didn't have the best of day two. It started off pretty well. We finished up the last little bit of progression that we needed. We got to about 105 total completion so far. So we're only realistically just missing the unique maps currently, which we don't really need for our strategy. And the goal of today was to upgrade me and our aura bots to the point where we can do bosses. I will say the way we got there was hilarious. We were doing a tier 16 tropical island. We were right by the boss. There was some monster with I don't know what rolls on it, but as soon as we killed it, it dropped, I think, 24 sixlings or something. Oh,
What
we're
the
rich. We're
fuck?
rich. We're rich. We're rich. We have 26 links. We're rich. Once our trader sold everything, I believe we made 12 or 13 divines from all the six links, which was insane. And that allowed us to get annihilating lights. That allowed us to get our aura bot a prism guardian. That allowed us to get me a few upgrades. I got a heat shiver. I got 2 calls of brotherhood. I got a new pair of gloves, a new pair of boots, some clusters. And with all of that, we gained so much damage instantly. I believe when we went and did our first elder, and I'm not kidding here, I killed elder. I phased him in 5 hits. That's how much damage we ended up getting from those 12 divines. If we walked into that elder kill before, I think it would have taken me maybe about 40 to 50 spark hits to kill him, which wouldn't take very long to do. But we killed him in 5 hits. No bounces, no overlaps, nothing. Just he actually phased in 2 seconds from full health. And it was probably the most disgusting thing I've ever experienced. Killing Elder fast isn't really that much of an accomplishment since he only has around 70 million health. But doing 70 million health in 2 seconds on day 2, early day 2, was crazy. It was the most insane experience I've ever had. So we did that. And for the rest of the day, unfortunately, the economy wasn't very good. I know I've told people, hey, do essences. Typically, and a lot of us were surprised that this wasn't true, but typically the essence market is really, really good. Day 2 and day 3, it starts picking up. People start wanting to buy essences. But this season, nobody has money. I don't know if you guys noticed, but Crucible doesn't really give you anything. And then raw currency drop for most people until they're starting to juice isn't really there, especially until they get to Searing Exarch altars. So we think because of that, most people in the economy right now are like ridiculously poor, or not necessarily ridiculously poor, but not to the point where they can start affording essences to either do crafts with them or to craft their own gear. And that's why we personally think the essence market is so slow. But we were doing quite a lot of essences. And once we got those 12 divs worth of upgrades, we started doing tier 16 essences. And we were surprised that we would have 4 or 5 div worth of essences and none of them would sell. We did realize at the end of day 2, once we went to bed, our trader said, hey, everything's picking up. All these essences are selling. So I think now that we're going into day 3, we should have no problem selling essences. But we were surprised that we weren't able to sell them day 2. So we had quite a lot of essences just flying around doing nothing. And with that, we were just farming bosses. As I said, we 5-shot Elder. So we started buying everything bossing related. We started buying Conqueror maps, Shaper maps, Elder maps, and we just started doing every single Guardian. We killed them in like 2 seconds. And then we would get the fragments and start doing bosses with them. Unfortunately, we didn't really get to do too many bosses. The way we were putting our aura bot together was unfortunately a little bit too squishy, and he was having massive problems living. And we had to spend about 2 full hours working on his gear and changing everything, and it didn't really help. But after we finished our day today, we spent maybe another 1 or 2 hours fixing some more stuff. And I think now that we're going into day 3, he is unkillable. That should be great. Our plans for today are going to be to do Uber Elder and Maven all day. So if anyone is watching this at the start of the season and you need carries, we will happily sell Uber Elder and Maven carries to you for your watch zones. But that is our plan for all of today since we have fixed all of our gear. And I'm hoping that we can maybe move on to Uber Maven by the end of today. We want to abuse the fact that basically nobody's really doing bosses yet. And the fact that, for example, Legacy of Fury, the RF Explodey boots are still 3 div each at the end of day 2. We want to abuse those super high prices to make quite a lot of money. And I'm hoping we can transition to Uber Maven and make even more money from that. Last thing I want to go over is me and my Orobots gear and what our plans are from here. So let's start with our Orobots gear. So our Orobot is currently playing low life with Victarios, and we have managed to fit 3 offensive auras on them. They currently have Hatred, they have Wrath, and they have Zealotry. I have swapped over to Call of the Brotherhood, and I am cold converting. So we massively benefit from all of these. Currently, we are trying to get him a flask with reduced mana cost on him. It's probably going to be the first thing we do on day 3, because with that, the cost of haste will go from 400 down to about 50. And then we can run a Divine Blessing Inspiration haste and have a effectively 4th damage aura permanently. But he is currently 84, 84, 85. We do not have level 21 purities, but if we did have 21 purities, we would go up to 87 on the Orobot, if I'm not mistaken. And I would go up to, I think, 85 or 86, which makes us pretty tanky. This is his EHP right now. It's 260. His Chaos Res is a little bit weaker. I think this path of building is a little bit wrong because we don't have these 3 nodes, but we will be getting those 3 nodes ASAP for him. And then he will be Chaos Res capped. But the rest of his stats are good. Armor's fine. Evasion's fine. ES is pretty good. We're almost at 6k ES on him. We're hoping to eventually get him a Intuitive Leap, which we can put in this gem socket right here. That allows us to pick up Charisma and the Reservation node for free without needing these 3 points right here. So it does save us 2 passive points in total. And then it would be really nice if we can get him an Energy from Within, put it right here, and turn these ES and Life nodes into just pure ES nodes. That should give him quite a lot more tankiness. As for the rest of his gems, these are just Intelligence and Reservation jewels. These are allowing him to have 2 life and 17 mana while fitting everything we have. And then for clusters, he's simply just running 2 25% increased effect, 3 passive reservation efficiency clusters. Eventually, we are going to get him a large cluster, maybe at the end of today, maybe at the end of tomorrow. And we're going to fit more of these in there so we can fit more auras. Overall, our Orabot is a lot tankier. This is what we currently spent the past few hours at the end of day 2 fixing. What we did is we got him a new helmet. He now has a +1 maximum resistance, reservation efficiency Eldritch helmet with a reservation efficiency enchant on it. This was then spammed with intelligence essences until we got a decent ES roll on it. Same for the gloves. The gloves are just generic ES gloves. And then we got him 2 ES rings. And this made him go from about 2,000 energy shield to almost 6,000, which is really nice. The flasks on here are incorrect. I will put our path of buildings in the description below and I'll fix the flasks. But we also got him good flasks. So now he has a sapphire and a topaz flask. So his total elemental EHP should be a lot higher. They all should be, I believe, 74 or 75,000 EHP for these with the right flask on. Otherwise, the rest of his gear is just typical Orabot gear, Sign-the-Sin-Eater, Prism Guardian, Victarios, Sintrek, Jinx Juju. We do want to replace the Beta Breath on him. And I know once our traders get on, we will get that done. We want to replace it with a crystal belt that has flask effect on it. Because then what we could do is we could drop these 3 nodes here. And he will still have permanent uptime on Correlating Elixir. But until we get him a flask effect belt, we cannot get rid of these points. But we'd really like to, as there's another few good masteries we can pick up for him. And we just get him more ES overall. At this point, he has everything he needs in terms of aura effect. There's nothing else to pick up. So we purely just want to make him tankier. We have also now put Soul Link on him, which is making me substantially tankier. We have not been able to do this until now, simply due to the fact that he was too squishy. He had 2k ES. But now that he has 6k, now that he has 87 all res soon, once we get impurities as well, we should have no problem running this on him. And as for my path of building, this is what we're currently running. I believe this number is a little bit too high. We are just using a generic copy paste Orabot's modifier to give us the values of our Orabot. But I believe these are a little bit too high since I'm at 88, 89, 88, which I should only be at 85 right now. So I'm going to say my actual current DPS is probably about 11 to 12 million single spark DPS. And then if we want to assume 5 overlaps, which I think is pretty generous, we're probably around 60 or so million DPS, which is not bad. For my setup, we are currently running a lightning to cold converted heat shiver annihilating lights low life inquisitor. It's pretty much bog standard. There really isn't much to say here. We're just using the stick because the stick is overpowered. We're using heat shiver because heat shiver is overpowered. And we have a very easy time to freeze everything. We can actually even freeze Elder. One plan as my next level is I want to pick up a few of these, at least this point of cold ailment duration, as this will actually make it so I have an easier time freezing bosses. Increased duration of ailments actually makes it so you need a smaller hit to be able to freeze a boss. And with this effectively means I freeze 20% more often, which makes heat shiver even better. And I have two calls. I do need to put conversion. I do need to put catalysts on my calls as they're still only 40% calls. That should be a massive DPS upgrade. But currently, catalyst about 1C each, and putting 40C into these calls most likely is not worth it. As for the rest of my gear, it's just some default gear that we found. It's just the cheapest 6 link we were able to get some resistances. It's time to replace this as we are actually doing some really interesting tech where I am effectively immortal to all hits, but we'll go over that in a second. As for gloves, these are just more generic gloves. I do need to get exposure on here. We didn't buy any Ichors because they're 1C each, and we don't want to waste 40, 50 Ichors on cold exposure. But eventually I will be trying to get cold exposure. For boots, it's just a really well-rolled pair of boots. And for amulets, this is just a super heavy dexterity amulet with some life and some chaos resistance on it. And then same for the belt. It's just a kind of bad belt, and we kind of need to replace it at this point, honestly. As for the rest of my tree, this is what everything is currently looking like, and we will explain what we're doing here in a second because we are abusing some new mechanics. For our cluster, we are just using a pretty default Storm Rider, Storm Drinker cluster, which I actually need to eventually get regrets. We have no regrets left, and we're going to get rid of these 2 points here as I do not want ES Leech. And I have Aerodynamics Repeater and then Repeater Aerodynamics. We couldn't find Streamlined as that was too expensive. It was like 30, 40C day 2. So we're just going to go for Aerodynamics instead and upgrade later. And then for the rest of my jewels, they're just a pretty generic, just projectile speed and just cast speed jewels. Let's talk about the tech, which I'm most likely going to be making a whole video on talking about this as basically any single build in the game can abuse this and you are immortal. So the tech we are abusing is the new jewel that was added to the game, Blood Notch. This makes it so up to 60% of damage taken from stunning hits is recovered as life. Well, what we can do is there's a multitude of ways of going about this, but we need to basically have 0 ES. And we are doing that through Immortal Ambition. Energy Shield starts at 0. And we cannot recharge or regenerate Energy Shield. So the only way I can gain Energy Shield is through Leech. So if I drop this node, I will never be able to actually gain ES. Because I'm at 0 ES, I can then take the ES Mastery that makes my stun threshold be based on my ES instead of life. And because I'll be at 0 ES, that pretty much guarantees every single hit against me will be a stunning hit. Because everything is a stunning hit, that means then Bloodbath or Blood Notch will make us recover 60% of it. And what we can do with that is run Petrified Blood. So 40% of a hit is already ignored to Petrified Blood. And then 75% of it is then taken as damage over time. Well, out of that 75%, 60% of it is immediately instantaneously healed by Blood Notch. And then the other 15% is taken care of by Recoup. We picked up Vampirism right here and a little bit of life regen. The way this has been described to me is if you have a 60% Blood Notch, this completely with one Recoup wheel makes it so the life loss prevented by Petrified Blood does not actually do anything. And what this comes out to is if you do not get one shot, you cannot be killed. If you want a quick example of what this looks like, let me go over to Blood Aqueducts and just show you how I am effectively just purely immortal and unkillable. So I can stay in the middle of all these monsters, and as you can see, my pool is going to drain. I'm going to have a full set of Petrified Blood, full health missing. But as you can see, nothing is actually damaging me. This isn't perfect because I do not have a perfect roll of this. And I assume a perfect roll of this jewel is going to skyrocket in price. But between my recovery, I am healing everything back. The only thing that could kill me was a complete one-shot if I had a perfect roll of Blood Notch. What we can do with this as well is we can take Immaculate Force, which gives us a hell of a lot of increased stun and block recovery. So I do not really even notice the blocks or the stuns. As you can see, I can move around and it's as if I'm not being stunned. But every single one of these hits is stunning me currently. But I cannot notice that I'm actually being stunned. And then we can utilize some really broken new tech that was added to the season. We can abuse the 25% more spell damage if you've been stunned while casting recently. This is effectively a secondary pain attunement and is disgustingly, disgustingly overpowered. Since every single hit is also stunning us, we can also abuse a cast when stunned to have a lot of things automatically proc for us. I haven't decided what I want to put in there, but I do think I'm most likely going to be putting in a ability with a coal. So we have a free coal. I might put my mark in there so my mark is automatically triggered for me. I can effectively put whatever I want in there as long as I'm being hit, it's just going to automatically cast it for me. I will make a whole video going over this, talking about it in detail, but if you want like very quick insider information on this broken combo of Immaculate Force, Blood Notch, and Petrified Blood, here's your insider source. If you want to copy it, you do need a 2120 Petrified Blood. You do need to pick up one recoup wheel somewhere, and then you just need the 2 jewels. And then congratulations, you are, as you can see, immortal. I have 262 armor. I have 1000 evasion rating. My reses aren't even capped. And as you can see, I can sit here and tank Blood Aqueduct Bobs like it's nothing. I could also do this in a tier 16 map, except in a tier 16 map, then elemental damage kind of starts mattering as I'm not res capped and I might get one shot. But with this, effectively nothing outside of boss abilities that most likely should have killed me anyway can kill me. That's all I really have to say for today's updates. Tomorrow should be fun. We'll be doing a lot of bosses and we'll go over all of our updates, all of our upgrades, and how the day went. I hope you guys enjoy this and I hope you guys come by and check us out on Twitch. We'll have a lot of fun today and it should be a wonderful time. Other than that, I hope to see you guys in the next video.